I just wanted to talk a little bit about the AR-15 BCGs, or bolt carrier groups, and I'll just give a little bit of information about them and stuff of like what I think about them. And to start off with, the BCGs I'm going to be using, this is the Brownells nitride coated carrier group. I got a couple of them here, and then I've got a Colt manufactured, it's a Sporter model, but it's a Colt manufactured one. And to start off with, this bolt carrier group, the civilian model, I'm not sure how many people still use this, but this was popular in the old days. And what they've done is they've basically cut relief here. Sometimes it won't even have this little round end to it. Sometimes it'll be completely cut off. And that's just to keep it like it's a positive thing to so that the gun will never trip into full auto. If you had a full auto trigger components, this would not trip them. And this piece here has been relieved quite a bit. I'm not exactly sure why they made this cut here, this little slant here. I'll compare this is what they call a full auto carrier group. It's just what it's called. It doesn't mean that the gun is full auto, but this is what the original carrier, this is how it was designed. And you can see it has the full, like the big lug on the back is the full length. And then that ramp is the ramp here. It's fully encloses the firing pin, and it's really not that big a deal. The cut at the back I wouldn't even really care about. The little ramp can cause not malfunctions to the gun, but it can wear quite a bit. If you notice that there's like no wear on this one, I'm not sure. This might even be a brand new carrier. But there's no, I have to get a firing pin. If you put the firing pin in, it sits out like that. The firing pin is actually exposed. And you'll notice that it has wear, quite a bit of wear from like the hammer bouncing around in there. And also, if you have a slightly oversized firing pin, it can ride on the firing pin and grind it down. It isn't an issue about reliability, but it does make considerable wear. You can just see how it's been chewed up in there. I wouldn't worry about it, but I would, if you had a carrier like this, I would probably replace it. If it's worked for you for a long time, I wouldn't worry about it. But if I was doing a build, I would not get a carrier like this. I would go with the actual what they call a full auto carrier, which is what pretty much every manufacturer makes nowadays, I would think. I know with the Norenco one, it's not a true carrier. They just relieve like just millimeters off of the bottom lug so that it can't work properly in an automatic gun. So I highly recommend getting one of these. If you're doing a build, you don't have anything else, I would get one of these. Again, I wouldn't worry too much about the other carrier unless you're having problems with it. And another good thing to have on is these stakes for the screws that hold the gas key on. And I would not, I know people say, oh, you know, it's not a big deal to have them staked down. It's no big deal. They haven't had them fail. But I would not buy a carrier if it's not staked down, because everybody knows this by now, is they should be staked down. That's like how they were designed. If you notice the Colt one, how massively it's been staked in. Like, that's how they should be designed. If you're going to buy a carrier, make sure it has that on there. If you built the carrier yourself, I mean, and you think that you don't need that, then that's kind of up to you. But I would not buy a carrier unless it has these the staking in it. But that doesn't necessarily mean the gun's going to fail if it doesn't have the staking in it. It's just that I would look for that in purchasing a carrier group. And then also make sure to have the chroming in the carrier, full chroming inside, and then the gas key too is also chromed. The nitrided carriers are fine too. They don't need chroming because they have their own little coat on them. But some of the cheap carriers won't have chroming. That's something to look out for. Make sure it has chroming. It's just that to me it's an upgrade, and I don't know why anybody would buy a cheaper carrier without this in it, because you might have to replace that carrier, and also it means that that carrier was cheaply made. It was only made to be cheap. So there's certain things to look out for. Make sure it has the chroming in it. As far as the carrier itself, that's probably all I would look out for. Then when it comes to the actual bolt group, one thing you can get is the little cotter pin here that holds the firing pin in place. This part can bend on you. I may have seen it once where a cotter pin has been bent. It just from the back and forth of the firing pin, and you can get an actual pin to replace this. I'm not positive, but I believe the early AR-15s, it was a pin to begin with. It looks like a golf tee, is what it looks like, a little golf tee that goes through. And now I don't know if they're good or bad. I would assume they're probably good. They're an upgrade from the little cotter pin, but I haven't personally ever tried one, but that is a piece you can look out for. And again, it looks just like a little golf tee, and it replaces this part here, and that's something to look out for in terms of wear on a gun. If you're getting bending on this part, then just replace it. I don't know if you could do anything other than that, other than replace the pin to solve that problem. And then the bolt itself, people make a big deal about the MP tested bolts, that you have to have it MP tested. This is the Colt one here with the MPC on it, and it's good to have that, but sometimes with these firearms, what will happen is you might just get a bad bolt, and it might break on you, whether it says MP or not, or you get one it doesn't have the MP tested on it, and it might last forever. It's kind of like, I wouldn't go out of my way to make sure it has this on it, because it could fail just like anything else. It's just that it's been more rigorously tested. I don't know if I guess I would pay a little bit more, but I wouldn't go crazy paying more for one that's been tested a little better. And upgrading, the upgrade that I would recommend for anyone right off the bat when you get one of these guns, especially a carbine, this is like critical for a carbine. Rifles tend to be pretty rugged on their own, and they seem to just, it's the way the gun was designed, so the original parts usually work okay. But I would definitely upgrade is the extractor, which is the problem that like 90% of your problems are probably your extraction problem in the AR-15. And what you need to do is upgrade the little spring. This one here I have is fully upgraded, which means it has the little rubber donut, it has an upgraded spring, and it has that little red like thimble like nubby thing in there. The little red nubby thing isn't necessarily that important. Like, I would just probably get rid of it. or I mean, leave it if you have it, or if you don't have it, I wouldn't worry about it. And also the spring doesn't necessarily need to be upgraded, but if you're gonna upgrade it, like if you're gonna do it, get the parts and all that, I would get the upgraded spring. But you definitely need the little donut. Sometimes they're a D, sometimes they're like a donut, a round donut. And you can just get them, the spring from Wolf. It's the extra power spring, AR-15 spring. It's just like this. That's the part numbers and everything on it. And then this is the piece here that you definitely need, is the extractor donut rings, they call them. Definitely that would be the upgrade I would make. And one personal upgrade that I like to do is I use a McFarlane ring, which replaces your gas rings. It replaces your gas rings with a one-piece solid rings. Like some guys make a real big issue out of their gas rings because you should line them up a certain way, and then other guys are like, oh, you don't have to have them in there, it works perfectly fine. But if you want to just end that debate totally, I would get the McFarlane ring, because it's just a one-piece ring. You just take out your old rings, and then it sort of coils in. It's really easy to replace. It coils in, and then you never have to worry about it again. I mean, maybe if you wanted to clean it, but I wouldn't even really bother too much with cleaning it. I don't think I really have cleaned any of mine. The McFarlane ring also works like this. If you have a good bolt carrier, I think this is the one with the normal rings in it, and it should just your normal carrier should be able to set like that on the open bolt. Like that's how you test if your gas rings are good and you're getting a good seal in there. But on the McFarlane rings, this one has the McFarlane rings in it, it should just drop like this. It's made to drop like that. And then again, you don't have to worry about it, because if you have gas rings in there, the factory gas rings, and it starts to drop like that, it might worry some people. But if you know that your carrier is going to drop like that, then you'll never have to worry about it. That's what I use. It's just my personal preference. Like that's what I would do to a bolt carrier, but other people, like I said, some people are like, oh, it doesn't matter about the gas rings. I personally think it does matter about the gas rings, because even if you have overpowered ammunition, sometimes it'll make the gun function, but like, who wants to have all that massive, like over-gassed recoil and everything? I'll digress from that because it's not important. But anyways, this is just my video on the bolt carrier groups and some upgrades you can make to them, and my personal preferences. And as far as firing pins go, they just are what they are. I mean, I've never thought about firing pins for 2 seconds. I just, whatever the bolt carrier comes with, that's what I use. I don't really change them. So anyways, other than that, thank you for watching.